Hi, everyone. My name is Paula Salinas, and I'm the beverage director for Side Street Hospitality. And I'd like to welcome you to Austrian Wine Time here at Bergerie. We are doing a special event with the Austrian Wine Council and the Texas Food and Wine Alliance for the month of April, featuring some of our favorite producers from Austria. We're joined today by Bill McGuire from Rootstock, our distribution here in the state of Texas, and Niklas Peltzer of one of our favorite producers, Meinklang. So welcome, guys.
Hi.
How are you?
Doing well.
Yeah.
We're coming to you from a town called Fredericksburg, Texas, and Fredericksburg, Texas is kind of a little kind of wine community. We have beautiful vineyards here, make fantastic wine, but we're located in Texas Hill Country between the Austin and San Antonio corridor. And we share a really interesting heritage in that this is a town that was settled in the 1800s by many people from Germany and from the Habsburg Empire. And we're celebrating our 175th anniversary as a town. So all of the stars are aligning to bring us together for this kind of Austrian celebration in April. And we did not feel as if it would be complete without featuring your wines. So we're going to be featuring two wines today. The Meinklang Gruner Veltliner 2020, which is being served currently by the glass at Otto's, and the Meinklang Prosa 2020, which is going to be part of our 6-pack that we're serving at La Bergerie, being offered with associated content available through the month of April. Niklas, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your role within Meinklang.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you again for having me here today. It's so cool what we nowadays can do with far distance in this COVID times to figure out the way how we can communicate and be there even though we're not physically there. I've actually been in Texas in that area, I think, at Jasper Hill once on his wine fair. I think when I remember right, that is the wine country area. And I really liked it. It was really humid and hot, but it was really, really
What's
nice.
your favorite part about Texas?
I like the different kind of hospitality. It is not like anywhere else I've been in the US before. And it was really more like if you would go in the south of Europe. It was really friendly and open-minded with a certain honesty to it, which I like, which is more like people in the south of Europe maybe also a bit like here, like down to earth, but really great hospitality.
That's awesome.
I really like that. Yeah. And so I'm right now at the farm actually, and we are based on the Hungarian border on the east of a big lake called the Nisettle Lake, southeast of Vienna. It's a mixed agriculture, as you might know. So this is why we have also the cow on the label, because it represents fertility and liveliness, but it also fertility for the soil and liveliness also to the things growing on that particular soil. But it also is part of our farm. We have 400 or 500 cows. We have porks, sheep, goats, chicken, horses, and farm a lot of different grains and kind of farm products such as barley and so on, apples, etc. I joined the farm 8 years ago because the structure here is really interesting. It is this really diverse, beautiful, holistic polyculture, you could say, and it always kept this approach of traditional farming. But what made Meinklang unique, I think, is that we still focused on the modern times. So we didn't try to live like in the past or something like that. We just enhanced those knowledge from the past, maybe how a traditional way of farming would be, and developed though into specialization in its diversity. So what is pretty unique is that the whole family stayed intact in the farm. So I always try to compare it to a cooperative in the family itself. So it is a little bit like a commune, and everyone is specialized in the different certain things. So my role when I actually started to join was a little bit to communicate all the beauty of Meinklang. I think in the beginning, because I'm a trained sommelier, I come from the hospitality part as well, and then moved into wine trade and then worked a bit on wineries as well in the farming part. But So I had a little bit of different communication and maybe a little different approach how I saw Meinklang. And the people here are really humble, really focused on work, really devoted, to their land and to the farming. I think a lot of wineries would say that nowadays because it sounds so nice, but here it's really, if you ever come here, you feel that, vacation is more like something you don't look forward here internally in the family. It is more really like being connected to that place and working as much as you feel what you want to give to that land. It's a lot of responsibility, I would call it. And through that, you can feel fulfillment. I think what is really missing in nowadays times. I think we have a lot of unhappy society because there's a lot of unresponsibility that you feel like you don't know why you are actually here for. And here it always feels really rooted, it's really, really focused. You really feel that, and so when I joined, I just wanted to communicate that more, that was maybe in the beginning my task. And then really quickly I learned here it takes a different time at Meinklang, and I kind of grew into everything. And that was also what Meinklang always wanted to be. It didn't want it to be a winery or a farm focused on one person. It always wanted to stay a bit more open and maybe involve other people who have the same passion. And then, have this, not a commune, we are not living like that, but in the working mentality, maybe like a commune a little bit, to involve people who feel responsible for their work and for their doing and want to be part of that and want to be part of something bigger. So that what happened to me, and I became quickly, I would say, felt for me like a family member. I'm originally from Germany, so my family was far away or is far away. So I felt really welcomed here, but also put then a lot into it. And I think nowadays you could say, when you split up the farm a little bit, you have the parents' generation. I'm right now in Anneliese's office, actually. She started to turn the farm in the 80s into organic and was, I think, for me a lot here, the driving force to create what Meinklang is nowadays. And then you have the three sons, Werner, Hannes, and Lukas. And Lukas is specialized for the animals. Hannes is specialized for the farming. Also, both are trained in that. And Werner was trained into winemaking. So he went to wine university. And I think I run more or less the wine part together with Werner and his wife, Angela. So Werner and Angela is more the cellar master. Werner is more the executive. I'm in charge a lot of still the communication and all that, what is part of that, and the exporting and a lot of stuff like that. But especially when it comes to harvest, where it's really, because winemaking at the end mostly happens in the 6 weeks in autumn. And the rest of the year is a lot of organization and planning and a lot of computer work. That's a reality, especially at a certain stage or a certain professional level. In harvest, we are all three together full on, and I'm in the morning more dealing with the vineyard teams together with Werner's mom, Anneliese. She's in charge of that, and I'm helping her as much as I can. And then I'm taking over the grapes in the vineyards in the afternoon, in the winery, and processing them pretty much. And Werner is always kind of the head over it. He's floating everywhere. He has so many tasks, and also keeping the family farm a little bit together. He's definitely the most knowledgeable person when it comes to biodynamics and how we can fulfill that as a bigger farm as well, this holisticness. So he does a lot with that as well, keeping it all under one hut, under one umbrella kind of.
Speaking of biodynamics, I have a friend who's a world traveler, and I was speaking with her, and I mentioned that we were doing this event, and she was like, "Oh, what wines are you pouring?" And I was like, "Oh, we're pouring this and this," and then there's this producer that I'm really excited about called Meinklang, and she was like, "Meinklang," and she lit up. She was like, "I discovered them in Norway," and that is not the only time I have encountered that kind of reaction to the wines. And I had a little bit of that reaction to the wines myself, because there seems to be this energy to the wines and this expressiveness that they kind of like leap out of the glass to meet you. And I'm wondering, like, do you attribute that to the energy that you're putting back into the vineyard? Or?
Yeah, I think you said that already pretty nicely. That's exactly what we try to aim for. I think we're living in as we know, right? I don't have to tell you how the world's functioning, but we're living in a pretty superficial world. And I think the wine industry, the classical wine industry, really, really lost a little bit their identity, their craft. It brought itself so much closer to the industrial wine world. They used the same yeast, the same technique, the same knowledge, the same farming, that I personally, even as a young someone, felt, what's the matter? Why there's then even so expensive wines and so different wines? You can also go to supermarket and buy a wine for $5 and you will have not much a different, So what really is at the core of our work when it comes to the wine, which is just a tiny part, and that I think is unique, I can explain that later, and special and important, that it's just a little part of it, of our everyday thinking, that we want a wine which has a character, which has a soul. We want that exactly what, again, you described it already perfectly. We want that the people feel something when they drink our wine. And I don't mean just a drunky feeling. I mean like literally emotions, and the reaction you said from your friend is beautiful. And that's what we are doing it for. We are not doing it to make the best wine in the world. We always say that we don't want to be the best of the best and looking for this one particular taste in a wine and expressing this one particular single vineyard. And that is totally fine too. I love a lot of wineries working like that, but we come more from the farmer approach, less from the winemaker's approach. No one here is really a winemaker, I would say. Everyone is here more dedicated and devoted to the farming. Even me not being so much in the vineyards, our daily thinking is more towards that, and the way we express also our wines, the way we develop the whole farm, not just the wine part, and it's always, dedicated to that. And I think the wines have to speak that language. They have to speak a farmer language, and 10, 20 years ago, that was in the wine world, not sophisticated enough language. It needed to be special and sophisticated and rare, to the language the wine has to speak. And I think with that came a lot of overthinking, and winemaker thought they have to put all these complications into it, and by that taking out actually the beauty what it is, because at the end of the day, it is a farm product, and it's maybe not even a crafted product. You as a winemaker or producer or farmer, you farm something and then you just enhance it into that wine and try to keep as much liveliness into it as it's been there, like until one generation ago. Even traditional winemakers and high quality winemakers knew the wisdom of the soil and the place, and that's what they always want to transfer in old Barolo, old Bordeaux, old Burgundy. That was always the common sense, So I think in a really short time, just it disappeared fast, and nowadays it seems as something special, which is obviously great that you and other people detect that. And our mission is also that people sensibilize more for that again, or getting more sensible. I don't know if that was the right word in English, but that they get more sensible, that they get more aware, more conscious of what they're consuming. Because for me, the future, and we do know that there is a big issue in the nowadays world, right? I want that my grandchildren still can live on that earth, and right now it seems more unlikely than likely. So I think we have to find a way how we can understand life better. And the best for me, and especially when it comes to farming, is by a product you're eating and you can feel it is made well, it is made naturally, and you can do that. As you described it, you can taste if something have liveliness and comes from a healthy soil. Either it's a salad or wine. I think in a wine you can hide it better because of all the processing, and you have a fermented product. At a salad, people maybe detect that faster, but even that is disappearing nowadays. And I don't mean just the taste of it, I mean literally how it feels in your body, and yeah, so that's what we are here for.
I can certainly say I have a lot of guests that come in and they do start to ask those questions, and it has become a part of the public consciousness and the consumer that they really want to know. And Bill, maybe you can speak to this too. You're working in the distribution of these wines and you're dealing with buyers like myself. Is this definitely a trend that you are happy to see, that you see happening more and more?
Yes. We're so proud to be representing Meinklang in Texas, and it is kind of a like an exemplar that I can hold up when people do start the dialogue about low intervention wines and native yeast and non-filtered, because you hit all the benchmarks, and you have your Demeter certification, but no, people really want to know that the place that the grapes are grown is a healthy, functioning ecosystem. Good bacteria in the soil and you know, nothing being added there. People are, yeah, I would say the requests for that kind of bracket of wines has increased pretty much exponentially over the past 3 or 4 years. So yeah, it's definitely something that people want to have the conversation about right off the bat. And we're happy to have it because these wines are awesome. So
we're happy that you have them as well.
I think it's also, when I can add something, I think it's also great that, and I agree what you were saying, Bill, it's people, I think, through the wine can connect really good. What I always say, wine is a really good communicator. It is great to communicate. It's great on a date to communicate between each other. It helps to communicate, you know, and with wine, people associate a lot of fun and they pay a lot of money, you know, especially for those wines we're talking about. And even I know in the US on a wine shop, every wine has a certain price. So people dig naturally deeper. And I hope, or we hope through that, they also come then to food and to grocery shopping and maybe the way they live and maybe the way they shop clothes and everything, you know, and that then becomes really holistic and can make a big impact, you know.
So we're tasting 2 wines today, the 2020 Gruner and the 2020 Prosa. So shall we start with the Gruner?
Yeah, whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm not so much. I should have grabbed some bottles too. I'm even at the winery, but I was so running quick back and forth that I missed that. I have just some. The only thing I have here is some apple juice from our farm. I think it never even made it.
I have that here too.
Yeah. A lot of people are always asking about it, but we always say you can make also good apple juice in the US, so we don't have to export that. I mean, you also make good wines, but not enough. So that's why.
Well, tell us about this particular wine in the 2020 vintage.
Well, Gruner Veltliner, and for us, and exactly what Bill said before, which I would like to, you know, continue with, is that we make wines which ticking all the boxes, you know, for being naturally made, but I think they're also really good bridge builders. I know that's maybe not a word, but I'm always using it. They're helping the people to go over, you know, that step into natural wine. And for me, both wines which we're tasting today are totally that. And they were from the beginning part of the farm when we actually started making wine in 2001 or 2002. And on a commercialized level, making wine. Before we did obviously make wine, but not really for selling it. And they always stayed successful. And even in the geekiest natural wine bar in the world, you still find those wines. And I think it is because like that, if you get a customer, especially in a restaurant, it's so interesting, but also in a shop, and they are a bit confused maybe by the cloudiness, or they are confused by you know, the taste you get from a wine without adding sulfites, you know, and we do have these wines, as you know, as well, you know, and but those 2 wines, along with one other red, are really for me a door opener. You know, you can bring it also to the party of your grandma and she will like it, you know, but also the natural wine dude will like it, you know, and that's what they really are able to do, you know, and so they're really important for us here at the farm. They're kind of our backbone, I would say, you know, they're they hold us, you know, together. And Gruner Veltliner is a really traditional variety. I'm sure you heard of it before. Maybe not. I'm always speaking as everyone would know what's going on in Austria. And I know
the market here is relatively fluent in Gruner. Yeah.
Yeah, but still, I mean, Austria is what, like a fifth of Texas, maybe, or not even, maybe a 20th part of Texas. I think just in Houston living more people than they do in Austria. So, you know, I'm always assuming everyone knows everything, but obviously that's not true. But yeah, it's a really traditional variety grown here for centuries, not in the Burgenland actually as well. People claim it no more for the Wachau and this prestige wine areas. What I love about Austria when it comes to natural wine, especially the Burgenland, it's so diverse and so open. There's so many great farmers working towards that direction because it was always a farming area and made mostly bulk wine. So it never had this high fancy, you know, wine culture in the industry itself, like you would find maybe in Bordeaux and Champagne, and they have the same problems, right? They don't develop further on. They stick with that, you know, never change a winning horse, or what's the saying? And that's what's beautiful here. There was never a winning horse, so you can do what you want, you know, and it's a certain freedom. But coming back to Gruner Veltliner, people kind of wiped it out. They replaced it with other varieties because it was not our soil, our terroir isn't fancy enough for the noble Veltliner. That's what people thought. But what I find so pretty about our Veltliner, and we actually do more Veltliners than that. We always just done one blend from all of our different parcels. That's a bit our philosophy. We have a lot of different parcels and we blend them then together to show this mildness and the diversity of the climate, because we don't have a single vineyard culture here. But what I wanted to say is you feel it more aromatic. It's not as harsh. It's not having this strong acidity, especially making natural. I think also you never can compare the classical wine world with the natural wine world, because in the natural wine world, you get total different aromas and different complexity. Plus in the natural wine world, or when you work like that, you pick much earlier because you want lower pH, you want a bit more freshness, you want lower alcohol. You don't want this heavy, fatty wines. So I think that helps also to get a really interesting, pretty, fresh drinking Veltliner from a quite warm area for Austria, which we are. We are quite warm climate for Austrian standards, not for Texan standards, but for Austrian standards. And yeah, so yeah, I think it's a great aperitif wine. It fits to many things. It's great to fried food, actually, like deep fried, like with the breading on it, the classical schnitzel. But yeah, it fits to many occasions, and it's just a really comforting, I don't want to say uncomplicated, because it isn't. Maybe it is a fun wine, but with a certain seriousness and complexity into it, Yeah, and then a second. Sorry, I forgot we have a second. If you want to,
yeah, and then the second wine is the 2020 Prosa,
which
I think is very special.
Yeah, it fits to your sweater. They're fading. It fades in there. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, the prosa is I don't know if you have that word in English actually, but it's a poetry without rhymes. So pretty much, yeah. So pretty much every written piece which is not a rhyme, and yeah, we just like that name. It explains so much for it. It's such a wine where you can lose yourself into it, in a good way. You can really let it float, and just have a good time with it. Again, it's a wine which fits to many different occasions. I think it's I don't like this like typization or how you say that, typization of wines, like this is the beach wine, this wine, this is the whatever chimney wine, the fireplace wine, and this is that and that. But it has for me a party wine mentality. It is a wine you can drink really nice when you come together for brunch and have just a good time. What I like is that it again finds that sharp line between being fun and really uncomplicated and really comforting, but also having a natural approach to it. It is a rosé frizzante. It is having this aromatic, fruity, slightly sweet aromatics, but it doesn't taste like strawberry jam maybe from a cheap supermarket. It tastes more like the strawberry jam your grandma used to do at home, and that smell, of like caramelizing strawberries with sugar, but in a natural way. And I think that what makes that wine so successful and people loving it throughout the wine industry and the natural wine industry, because it is a really fun, comforting taste, and maybe not crazy funky aromas, and really fruity and fruit forward, but in a natural way. You know what I mean? It's a bit hard to.
This is all Pinot Noir?
It is actually nowadays a blend. It used to be just Pinot Noir, but as we had to make a little bit more of it, and Pinot Noir is pretty hard to farm, we started to make pre-picking. That was the case also for the Pinot. So we have a few vineyards, younger vineyards, we just do full harvest, and then for that rosé, it's also the only rosé we're doing. We have sometimes some small batch rosés, like funky, crazy rosés, but this is the only more widely available rosé we do. So we do a pre-picking of other red wine vineyards as well. So we get this nice freshness, and then have later for the red wines a bit more matured grapes on that vineyards as well. So it's some Zweigel, some Blaufränkisch, and some St. Laurent in there, which are the three main varieties on red we have here.
So the bubble is very soft, and it is very voluptuous and kind of sensuous. It's a sensuous wine. The aromatics are lifted, and it isn't that kind of strawberry jam that you were talking about, but it's but there is some spice component and some floral character that it's just a really, it is easy to drink, but it's just very sensual.
Yeah.
I love this.
I totally agree. It's for me, you can pack both of them really well together. That they, like I said, there are fun wines, and you can drink them also on a barbecue on the beach and have no thoughts about it. But if you want, you can also really taste it and really find a lot of interesting aromas. And that's, I think, what a wine, even for fresher, useful wine, still has to have that character we spoke before about, you know?
I think this would be delightful with some smoked pork, or kind of, I'm thinking about our cuisine and really complement. So Bill, what's your jam at home? What's your pairing for this wine?
My pairing with this wine is, I think the last time I had it, we did stuffed pork chops.
Ooh,
yeah,
strong.
But I'm always, it's always a hit. I've never brought it to a gathering. I mean, obviously not in the past year, but I've never brought it to a gathering where people weren't just like totally in love with it. So it's just so likable. But it's complex at the same time. So
it's a great wedding wine as well.
Oh yeah.
I had it on my wedding as a wine, and actually Werner and Angela, who started the wine part, and that was the first wine they did for their own wedding, and people liked it so much that they kept it going. So
that's
it
great.
Has this, it brings people together, that wine, kind of.
All right, I'm gonna have to start stocking up. We do a lot of weddings here in Fredericksburg, Texas.
Perfect. See?
That's beautiful. So a question for each of you guys. One last question. What do you think are the biggest misconceptions about Austrian wine?
That's a good question. I think that's for me a little bit hard to answer, because we are so different than the classical Austrian wine in ourselves, that I sometimes forget that even Austrian wine is for people unusual, because we are the unusual in the unusualness, so that's sometimes hard. But what I sometimes when I can say that, what I don't like sometimes is that people think everything in Austria is so natural and everything is organic, because Austria likes to promote that, because this alpine, beautiful country, and everyone is just beautiful and amazing. And we have the same problems like anywhere in the world, and so I sometimes don't like that Austrian wine is like, well, it's Austria, so it's organically made or natural, just because we have more organic focus here, so that's something I would love people to look a bit deeper. How real is that? But yeah, I think, I don't know, people should just have fun with Austria in general. I think the wines are always really comforting with food. I know a bit your food in Texas, and you have a lot of Mexican influence in the food, which I think works always. We sell even nowadays our wines to Mexico, and the food pairings there are amazing. Asia, same thing, Indonesian food, Thai food, like it actually fits for me less to Austrian food than it fits to foreign foods, So I think people think maybe it's too complicated, but I don't know, just grab a bottle and have some tacos and you will have fun,
I love it. I absolutely agree. Bill, for you?
I mean, I probably would say start with my personal misconceptions that I've unlearned, but I always assumed that it was a much cooler climate. But I since educated myself and other people that if I'm not mistaken, you have an amazing tomato growing region.
Yeah.
And
it's the best tomatoes you will ever find in the world. They're better than Italian tomatoes, I can tell you.
I can't wait to find out.
I'm going on a quest.
Okay. Yeah,
I have to find this out for myself.
Yeah.
Just where you're situated, and you do have vineyards in Hungary as well, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just that you are rather southerly located, and that it's not all alpine vistas and super dry high acid whites.
Yeah.
I popped up a bottle of the H17 and just loved it. It was great fun. Yeah. Recently.
Cool. That's the beauty of that area and that eastern part of Austria. It's, for me, as you say, the climate is much more dry. When I'm in summer in California, it reminds me more to Californian climate than you would think. It's actually pretty similar. We don't have that dry and warm winters, but we have actually similar summers. So it is interesting. Yeah, it's a good point. People have always that one thought of Austria, which is not true for the whole country.
But it's always a pleasure to introduce your wines to a new buyer who hasn't had them, or anyone really. So yeah.
Cool.
Well, I want to thank both of you so much for your time today. And just to do, again, a brief recap. So, so for starting in the month of April, we are offering a 6-pack of Austrian wine through Bergerie through the month of April. And included in that will be the 2020 Prosa. The 2020 Gruner Veltliner you can find by the glass at Otto's, also currently and through the month of April. And I can't wait to share these wines with you and have you fall in love with them just as we have. So thank you both so much for your time, Niklas, for tuning in from Austria.
Sure. I hope next time in person I can be in Texas.
Yes, that is all of our hopes.
Well, you're doing much better right now in the US, I have to say, than we do here actually, which is great for you. But let's see. Let's hope.
Yeah. And I also want to thank the Texas Food and Wine Alliance, who's our partner for this event. And we're contributing some monies along with the Austrian Wine Council to a scholarship grant that is wine focused that will be awarded later this year. So proceeds from that 6-pack will go into that fund. So thank you for all the great work that they do in the state of Texas. And yeah, I hope that you have a beautiful day. I've gotten mine off to a great start with some wonderful wines.
Yeah, this was a great start to my day. Thank you so much for putting this together.
All right. All right. Well, you'll have a great day.
Thank you so much. Bye. Take care.
In Texas.
Bye.